Glory to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, and may His peace and blessings be upon the Prophet, his family, and friends. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Nestled in an Arabian land, where stories of King David and Solomon had been firmly asserted and well heard, disturbed was a palm tree by a young woman near the foot of it. She was in the throes of agony. She most likely quivered as she fought the cramps rippling throughout her back and her abdomen. She clung to her stomach, stricken by the excruciating pain. See, she was going through the final stage of childbirth, and the contractions were all too much for her small frame. She was a first-time mother. She cringed at the force of what was inside her. Her garments a burden, a mother in the throes of labor. Her only wish was to not exist anymore. The throbbing, the kicking, the intrusiveness of a ready-to-be-born baby was now all too real. No one to help her, no family, nor midwife, and certainly no doctor. Just her, the Arabian sky, and the palm tree that she rested on. As possible, the reason for her single-handed childbirth was that she was embarrassed, having a pregnancy out of wedlock, and ashamed of her condition. So she thought to handle this ordeal by herself in a sense. And her people, they most likely just wouldn't understand. It's possible. Independent and alone. But you see, this was 2,000 plus years ago, about 16 BC. And this was no ordinary childbirth, and this was no ordinary young lady. This was Mary, the future mother of Jesus, peace be upon them both, or Isa, as we call him in Islam, affirming, yes, I am a Muslim and we do believe in Mary. And at this time, Mrs. Maryam, alayhi salam, was directly in the path of God's plan, and a plan conceived by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a matter unavoidable. She didn't know that while she was in the throes of childbirth, destiny had snuck up right behind her and gripped her and pulled her in one of the most storied events in history. Now we all know the story of Jesus alayhi salam as a baby in a manger, a comforting story respectively, and no disrespect to the nativity scene. But in the Quran, it's revealed Mary was actually stripped of all her support system. No one to help her, not even as much as hold her hand, or hold her up, or wipe sweat from her forehead. A much more grainy and heartfelt approach to such a storied event. But I was shocked to find Miss Maryam, peace and blessings be upon her, was so commonly mentioned in the Quran. So much so that I couldn't put it all in one video. She was truly a soul set aside by Allah Azza wa Jal to do great things. She, by herself, was left to do something not done since Adam's time, alayhi salam. It was to have a child without male intervention. In the times were, as you could imagine, unforgiving to a woman who conceived without wedlock, a shame for such a respected family, which whom she was from. So she ventured into a place far into the east, alone and away from the comments and gossip of her people. She prayed for some alleviation of their suffering. This was no test run. As she rested at the base of this palm tree, the sand shifted underneath her feet as she lay there, restless. She must have come to terms that this is what the angel Gabriel had promised her months ago, as she clamored and moaned, wondering when this would end, gripping onto her protruding belly. The sun shone through the leaves of the palm tree. Her headscarf covered her panting face. And then, a voice. I introduce you to Surah 19, verse 23 to 26. Maryam, or Mary, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. In the pains of childbirth, drove her to the trunk of a palm tree. She cried in her anguish, "Ah, would that I had died before this. Would that I had been a thing forgotten and out of sight." But a voice cried to her from beneath the palm tree, "Grieve not, for thy Lord hath provided a rivulet beneath thee, and shake towards thyself the trunk of the palm tree. It will let fall fresh ripe dates upon thee. So eat and drink, and cool thine eye. And if thou dost see any man, say, I have vowed a fast to Allah, the most gracious. And this day will I enter into no talk with any human being." A side note, many do not know that there is a chapter named Mary in the Quran. Alhamdulillah. And with Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, is where all matters are decided. And none can avoid a vested plan made by him, and none would want to if they knew the blessings. He knows very well the faithful and what they are going through. You see, a voice was heard, not of his, but of a messenger. And from that palm tree came a rivulet of water underneath for her to drink. And though it was incapable, it produced fresh dates for her to eat and feed her new child, at the time when Maryam, peace be upon her, most needed it, and removed her from the anguish and sorrow she was dealing with. One can assume she must have been astonished when she thought she was alone. The most merciful, subhanahu wa ta'ala, was there, watching the whole time. And between her legs, she went on to deliver one of Allah's most foretold prophets, the Messiah, Jesus, peace be upon him, or Isa, the Messiah. And though Islam does not affirm the date of this occasion, we still recognize this day as a mighty work of Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Both Mary and Isa left as symbols for mankind, as it states in the Quran. And of course we know the story, but it's only right that I shed light on the Islamic version of the young Jew who barged into history as a single mother. Blessed was the palm tree. Please like, subscribe, and share.